Good morning, everybody. Today I want to talk about a subject that is very personal and close to myself and my family. We're going to talk about schizophrenia. I've had a family member who suffered from schizophrenia and who unfortunately unalived herself back in 2011. And I believe that schizophrenia is not what it portrays to be in society. You see, in society, we make it so that schizophrenia is a disease, a way that makes us not behave normally. But to me, schizophrenia is actually a superpower. Your brain becomes more active and you are more sensitive to a lot of things that are happening in this life. And you actually fully incarnate the multidimensional being that we are. Unfortunately, and it is mostly true in modern science and in psychology and in psychiatry, we do not understand what it is and what it entails because we cut ourselves completely off from the spiritual side or the soul side, and we only look at the body instead of looking at the mind in a much bigger scheme. I've asked for such a diagnostic as well after my awakening or during my awakening period in 2022 to 2023, and the verdict came back negative. But probably it would have been a different story if I wasn't so well, I would say functional, because I had a high level career, bachelor degree in computer science, in a STEM field. I had a good job, a good situation on the material side. But within, I felt like something was deeply wrong, and not just with me, but with the world. So it probably prevented me from being locked up after my crazy stories. If you want to watch the video of which I talk about my awakening, I'm pretty sure that if I were someone or somebody who had a bigger history of mental health issue, I would have been locked up. Definitely. But because I was so protected by God, by my guardian angels as well, this is not what happened, and I'm so grateful for it. Now, to circle back on the subject and to not get distracted on topic, we are multi-dimensional beings, and our consciousness resides in multiple dimensions. It's just that the physical world is what we can perceive in the third dimension. And it's one of the tougher dimension to deal with because most of the things that we aspire to create or manifest take a lot more time to not only come to fruition, but the human experience as well makes us forget who we are. We believe that we are not God experiencing itself, for example. We believe that we are out of control of our situations. Life is random. It's happening for random reasons. There are all sorts of things happening in the world beyond our control, of course, but we have surrendered so much of our power that we ended up creating so much chaos and so much separation within this consciousness. From me, to which is complete insanity and trying to, I would say, bring new information and new frequencies into the world and anchor it into the world is quite a complex journey because not many people are ready to hear about this information and to understand. It's like when you try to save people from the Matrix, in the movie The Matrix in 1999. Great movie. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you do. But more often than not, people who are more conscious or more self-aware have watched this movie multiple times. And people will automatically resist that new way of being, that new understanding, that new information of life, especially if it hasn't been integrated or validated by scientific studies or science. To me, science is the new religion, you should say. If it isn't approved, scientifically speaking, very few people are willing to accept it. While life is not as rigid and physical reality is not as rigid as we believe it is in fact way more flexible than we think. Sometimes I wonder how much we ruin the life of a few individuals because we stuff them in of pills and we just label them and lock them up into a psychiatric ward. I've been in a psychiatric ward once, actually, because I couldn't sleep. I was so busy and stressed with a personal project of mine or trying to make it and to achieve my dream that I couldn't sleep anymore. My brain was constantly racing, trying to find solutions. And I ended up there. So I ended up seeing how the psychiatric world is inhumane, I would say. You're dealing with people who their minds are very fragmented and they are not really always there, always present. Some of them are intensely focused and deeply present. Others are less conscious, I would say. But nonetheless, you lock people up in a room with no windows, no sunlight, no colors. It's completely white, blank. It's and with barely any contact with the outside world. They are just put there together, trying to make sense of what's happening, where they are deeply into their inner world. To me, that's complete insanity, and that is downright close to really human torture, because that when you are more sensitive, more self-aware to your energies, to your auras, to the world, to the oneness of everything, you need nature. These people, they do not need to be closed off even more, so you put even more pressure to force them to go even deeper into their inner world, which you are trying to have the opposite effect, is to make them more conscious and aware and present to the outside world, to anchor them, to ground them. Everything that is being done there is the entire opposite. You give a bunch of pills, which more often than not does not help, and you lock those people into an environment that is really stressful. It is not so far away from the torture techniques that the CIA or the US Army forces are using to make people go insane. And we pretend that we are trying to help them. I'm not blaming, of course, the people behind, because they are truly believing, when you discuss with them and talk with them, they are truly believing that they are doing the right thing. But that's not true. Anyway, if you have been diagnosed with mental health issues or schizophrenia in particular, know that it is your superpower. You're just more sensitive to the world and more sensitive to nature, to animals, to humans, and to energies. It's just your brain is wired differently, and you see things and perceive things much differently, especially on the longer term. What I mean by that on the longer term is you think deeper in things, you feel things intensely, and it is a superpower because so many people need people like you. If it were not for being in a Western world or Western society, or perhaps even a couple of centuries ago, you would have been a shaman, the sage of the village, capable of guiding others, helping others understand better the patterns about their lives, where they are in their lives, finding back a connection to themselves, to God, to everything. If I had something to say, don't try to fit in. Go your own way. There's so much you can accomplish and do in this world. Don't try to fit in a box, in a label. Stand in your own power. If you've liked this video, consider leaving a like and subscribe, and comment as well to let others know about your journey and what you have uncovered into this crazy world that I love so dearly nonetheless. And I will see you in the next one.